I was sent to observe, to document the peaceful nature of the humans of New Eden. A simple task, I thought, for a species so seemingly ordinary. They were kind, family-oriented, and barely advanced beyond their own borders, perfectly fitting the narrative of a peaceful, harmless civilization. But what I didn't know, what no one could have predicted, was that beneath their calm exterior, there lay a primal force far more terrifying than anything the galaxy had ever seen. And when the storm hit, I stood beside them, witnessing the true face of humanity, a face I will never forget. The day I saw what they could truly become, I understood why the stars themselves screamed. First Contact Protocol. The Transport Shuttle. Harmony's voice docked with the human research station orbiting Kepler 438b with barely a whisper of metal against metal. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zolonian Diplomatic Corps adjusted his environmental suit one final time, checking the translation matrix and cultural database his people had compiled about this newest species to join the galactic community. Humans had appeared on the galactic stage only 18 months earlier, making first contact through a simple radio transmission that had taken the Council by surprise. Most species required decades of observation before formal diplomatic relations began, but humans had actively sought contact, broadcasting mathematical sequences and cultural information with an eagerness that bordered on naive. The airlocks cycled open, revealing a corridor lined with soft white panels and gentle blue lighting. Everything appeared clean, functional, but unremarkable. Kethvar had studied 43 different species during his career, and human technology seemed solidly average for a civilization that had recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Ambassador Kethvar, welcome aboard Horizon Station. The human who greeted him was a woman of medium height with graying hair pulled back in a practical style. Her smile seemed genuine, reaching her eyes in a way that suggested authentic warmth rather than diplomatic courtesy. I'm Director Sarah Chen. We're honored by your visit. The handshake was firm but brief, neither aggressive nor submissive. Humans had apparently mastered the art of non-threatening physical contact, something many species struggled with during first contact protocols. Chen's eyes maintained steady contact throughout the exchange, which Kethvar knew from his briefings was considered respectful in human culture rather than challenging. Thank you for your hospitality, Director Chen, Kethvar replied through his translation device. The Zolonian Confederation looks forward to learning about human society and capabilities. Chen led him through the station's main corridors, pointing out various sections with obvious pride. Research laboratories hummed with quiet activity while crew members worked at terminals displaying atmospheric data, agricultural statistics, and energy consumption charts. Every human they passed offered polite greetings, some stopping their work entirely to welcome the alien visitor. Our primary focus here is terraforming research, Chen explained as they entered the central laboratory. We've been working on atmospheric processing techniques for the colony below. 17,000 people call New Eden home now, and we expect that number to double within 5 years. The laboratory contained equipment Kethvar recognized from his studies of other developing civilizations. Atmospheric processors, genetic modification chambers, and sustainable energy systems all appeared competent but hardly revolutionary. Human technology seemed to follow established patterns used by dozens of other species, showing practical efficiency without remarkable innovation. Dr. Michael Torres joined them, a younger man wearing a simple blue uniform over casual clothing. His enthusiasm for his work was immediately apparent as he activated several display screens showing various research projects. These systems show our progress in atmospheric optimization, Torres explained, his voice carrying genuine excitement. We've managed to increase oxygen levels by 12% while reducing harmful atmospheric particles by 31% over the past year. Kethvar nodded politely. The numbers were respectable for a young species, though several other civilizations had achieved similar results using more advanced techniques. Humans appeared to be competent engineers working within the limitations of their current technology level. Very impressive progress for such a short time frame, Kethvar commented diplomatically. How do you coordinate such large-scale projects? Community cooperation, Chen replied with that same genuine smile. Humans work best when we're working together toward common goals. Individual achievement means less than collective success. The tour continued through living quarters that emphasized family spaces and community gathering areas. Unlike the rigid hierarchical structures Kethvar had observed in military-focused species or the isolated individual pods preferred by highly advanced civilizations, human habitats were designed around social interaction and group activities. They passed a common area where several families shared an evening meal, their conversations mixing work updates with personal concerns in ways that seemed naturally affectionate. Children played games that appeared to emphasize cooperation over competition, while adults supervised with the kind of patient attention that suggested genuine care rather than mere duty. "Family is very important to us," explained Commander Lisa Park when she joined the tour. Park wore what appeared to be a security uniform, though she carried no visible weapons and her manner was relaxed and friendly. "We believe that taking care of each other makes everyone stronger." When Kethvar asked about human defense capabilities, Park seemed almost embarrassed by the question. "We maintain basic security forces for protection against natural hazards and minor disputes," she said with a slight shrug. "Nothing too sophisticated. Most of our resources go toward research and development rather than military applications." The security office Park showed him contained standard monitoring equipment for tracking atmospheric conditions, wildlife movements, and weather patterns. A few basic defensive systems were visible, designed to protect against natural disasters or equipment failures rather than hostile forces. Everything suggested a species focused on peaceful development rather than territorial expansion. That evening, Kethvar was invited to visit the colony's surface aboard a civilian transport that descended through clear skies toward a settlement that seemed designed to blend with the natural landscape rather than dominate it. Buildings were constructed using local materials and arranged around natural features like rivers and forest clearings. The Henderson family welcomed him into their home, a comfortable structure that housed 3 generations under one roof. Grandparents helped care for young children while parents worked on various community projects. The evening meal was a relaxed affair with conversation flowing naturally between technical discussions about atmospheric processing and personal stories about family members. "We learned early that surviving on a new world requires everyone working together," explained Maria Henderson as she served food that had been grown in community gardens. "Competition creates waste. Cooperation creates abundance." The community center hosted a cultural exchange dinner where representatives from various human professions shared traditional foods and stories. When conversation turned to human history, Kethvar carefully asked about their pre-space conflicts. General Patricia Stone, an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes, spoke carefully about humanity's past. "We had our disagreements, certainly," she said with obvious reluctance to discuss such matters. "But we learned that working together achieves more than fighting each other." She mentioned something called the Unity Accords that had apparently ended humanity's last major war several decades earlier, but provided few details. Other humans at the table nodded agreement when she spoke about learning from past mistakes and choosing better paths forward. Kethvar found their reluctance to discuss military history interesting but not concerning. Most species preferred not to dwell on their violent pasts once they achieved interstellar capabilities. The focus on peaceful development and community cooperation suggested humans had successfully evolved beyond primitive territorial conflicts. The evening concluded with human children performing traditional songs, their voices filling the hall with simple melodies about friendship, exploration, and hope for the future. Parents watched with obvious pride while community leaders smiled with the kind of satisfaction that comes from seeing the next generation embrace positive values. As he prepared his initial assessment that night, Kethvar concluded that humans appeared to be a cooperative, family-oriented species with limited military potential and strong social bonds. They seemed well suited for integration into the galactic community as researchers, traders, or cultural ambassadors. Their technology was competent but unremarkable. Their social structure emphasized collective welfare over individual achievement, and their approach to conflict resolution appeared to favor diplomatic solutions over military action. Nothing he had observed suggested they would significantly impact the existing balance of power among established galactic civilizations. In his preliminary report to the Zolonian Confederation, Kethvar wrote, "Humans present as a peaceful species with strong community bonds and moderate technological capabilities. They appear focused on terraforming and peaceful expansion rather than military development. Recommend standard integration protocols with emphasis on scientific and cultural exchange opportunities." He had no way of knowing that he was about to witness something that would fundamentally change his understanding of what peaceful species were capable of achieving when pushed beyond their limits. The real test of human nature was still 3 weeks away. When the stars screamed. 3 weeks had passed since Kethvar's arrival at Horizon Station, and he had settled into a comfortable routine of observation and documentation. The humans continued their daily activities with the same peaceful efficiency he had noted during his first days. Director Chen shared research updates each morning while Commander Park discussed colonial development plans over meals that had become surprisingly enjoyable social events. The alarm that shattered the morning of Day 22 was unlike anything Kethvar had experienced before. Instead of the gentle chimes used for routine notifications, this sound cut through the station's atmosphere like a blade forged from pure urgency. Every human within sight immediately stopped what they were doing, their casual expressions vanishing as if someone had flipped a switch. All hands to stations. Code red. This is not a drill. Director Chen's voice echoed through the station's communication system, but the tone was completely different from her usual warm manner. The words came out crisp and mechanical, carrying an authority that made Kethvar's sensory organs tingle with unexpected tension. The transformation was immediate and startling. Dr. Torres abandoned his atmospheric research mid-sentence and moved toward what Kethvar discovered was a tactical command station. His gentle demeanor had vanished, replaced by focused intensity as he began accessing databases with practiced efficiency that suggested extensive prior training. "What's happening?" Kethvar asked a passing crew member, but the young woman barely glanced in his direction as she hurried past, carrying equipment the alien didn't recognize. Her eyes held a focus that reminded him of predatory species he'd studied, but humans were supposed to be herbivorous. Commander Park appeared at Kethvar's side, her earlier friendly manner replaced by professional urgency that seemed to radiate from every pore. "Distress signal from the outer system," she explained briefly. "Civilian transport under attack by raiders." The main display screen activated to show a three-dimensional map of the local star system. A pulsing red dot marked the location of the emergency, while blue indicators showed the positions of various human vessels. Kethvar watched as those blue dots began moving with coordinated purpose toward the distress signal, their formation suggesting military precision he hadn't suspected humans possessed. "Transport vessel Morning Star reports sector raider attack," announced Lieutenant Collins from the communication station. 2,300 souls aboard, including 400 children under the age of 10. The mention of children seemed to trigger something in every human present. Kethvar had studied enough species to recognize predatory focus when he saw it, but he had never expected to observe such behavior from the peaceful humans he had been documenting for weeks. Their transformation was complete and terrifying. Director Chen stood at the center of the command area, no longer the pleasant researcher who had welcomed him aboard. Her eyes moved across tactical displays with cold calculation as she processed information from multiple sources simultaneously. This was not the same woman who had shared stories about atmospheric processing over dinner. "Time to intercept?" Chen asked, her voice carrying absolute authority. 14 hours at maximum burn," replied the navigation officer, his fingers flying over controls with obvious expertise. "Signal the redemption and unforgiving dawn," Chen ordered. "Full combat loadout and prepare for extended operations." Kethvar felt confusion mixing with growing unease as he watched the humans coordinate their response. In his experience, civilized species typically approached raider incidents with careful diplomatic considerations and measured military responses. The speed and decisiveness of human reaction suggested something quite different from what he had observed during his stay. Even more disturbing was how civilian personnel were responding to the emergency. Marcus Webb, who operated a small hydroponics facility in the colony's agricultural sector, appeared in the command center wearing what looked like military equipment. Sarah Kim, a teacher Kethvar had observed reading stories to young children, was now consulting tactical displays with the same focused attention she had previously given to lesson plans. "Request permission to accompany the response mission," Kethvar said to Commander Park. As a Galactic Council observer, he had the right to witness human military operations, though he expected to document a routine anti-raider action similar to those conducted by other member species. Park's response came with a smile that somehow managed to be both amused and predatory. "Granted, but you might want to reconsider your request." "Why would I reconsider?" "Because you're about to see something that might change your opinion of us." The preparation phase revealed aspects of human behavior that challenged everything Kethvar thought he understood about this species. Colonel Martinez briefed response teams with clinical precision, outlining mission parameters that seemed far more comprehensive than simple raider interdiction. "Primary objective is civilian rescue," Martinez announced to the assembled personnel. "Secondary objective is threat elimination. Tertiary objective is intelligence gathering for follow-up operations." The mention of follow-up operations struck Kethvar as unusual. Most species dealt with raiders through immediate response followed by increased patrol schedules. Humans apparently had more extensive plans in mind. What truly unsettled the alien observer was how humans shifted between their normal social behavior and this new focused intensity. Maria Henderson, who had invited him to family dinners and shared stories about her children's accomplishments, was now coordinating supply logistics for what she referred to as extended combat operations, with the same maternal efficiency she brought to household management. The weaponry being loaded onto the response vessels was another surprise. Kethvar had assumed humans possessed basic defensive capabilities, but the equipment he observed suggested far more sophisticated military technology than their peaceful reputation indicated. Weapon systems, armor suits, and tactical gear moved through the station's corridors with practiced efficiency. "How long have you been preparing for something like this?" Kethvar asked Dr. Torres as he supervised the installation of additional sensor equipment. "We're always prepared," Torres replied without looking up from his work. "Hope for peace, plan for war." The phrase seemed to capture something essential about human nature that Kethvar had missed during his previous observations. These people maintained their peaceful, family-oriented society while simultaneously preparing for violent conflict with thoroughness that suggested considerable experience. As the Phoenix Rising prepared for departure, Kethvar found himself questioning his initial assessment of human capabilities. The transformation he had witnessed was too complete and too coordinated to be improvised. Every person knew exactly what to do, every system activated smoothly, and every piece of equipment was exactly where it needed to be. Director Chen approached him before boarding. "Last chance to stay behind," she offered. "What we're going to do might not match your expectations." "What exactly are you going to do?" Chen's expression became something the alien observer would remember for the rest of his life. "We're going to solve a problem." The simple words carried implications that made Kethavar's environmental suit work harder. He realized that his peaceful, cooperative subjects had been showing him only one side of their nature. The question now was whether he was prepared to witness the other side. The journey to the outer system aboard the Phoenix Rising took 14 hours, during which Kethvar observed preparations that fundamentally changed his understanding of human nature. The crew moved through their tasks with mechanical precision, but what struck him most was how they approached violence as if it were another technical problem requiring systematic solution. Sergeant Turner sat in the weapons bay, methodically cleaning his rifle with movements that bordered on ritualistic. Each component was inspected, cleaned, and reassembled with careful attention to detail that suggested reverence rather than mere maintenance. "Weapon care isn't just about function," Turner explained when he noticed Kethvar watching. "It's about respect for the tools that keep you and your people alive." The way Turner spoke about his weapon suggested a relationship Kethvar found disturbing. This wasn't simply equipment maintenance, but something approaching religious devotion. The human handled each piece as if it were a sacred object, speaking about its capabilities with the kind of reverence other species reserve for discussing their deities. Pilot Rodriguez spent her time running flight simulations that made Kethvar's digestive system churn. Her scenarios included casualty projections, collateral damage assessments, and tactical maneuvers that prioritized mission success over individual survival. She calculated acceptable loss rates with the same calm efficiency other pilots used for navigation planning. "The key is understanding that some choices require sacrifice," Rodriguez explained when she noticed his discomfort. "We accept that reality so civilians don't have to." Medical Officer Martinez prepared treatment stations that revealed another aspect of human military thinking. Along with standard trauma equipment, he organized supplies for what he euphemistically called information extraction procedures with casual professionalism that chilled Kethvar's blood. "Raiders who attack civilians forfeit certain considerations," Martinez said as he checked his supplies. "We need to know about their organization, their plans, and their weaknesses." The clinical way Martinez discussed enhanced interrogation techniques suggested humans had given considerable thought to systematically extracting information from unwilling subjects. He spoke about pain thresholds, psychological pressure points, and pharmaceutical assistance with the detached interest of a researcher discussing laboratory procedures. The battle began unlike anything in Kethvar's experience with galactic warfare. Most species he had observed approached combat with established honor codes, ritualistic challenges, or at least warning declarations. Humans simply appeared in the target system and began systematically dismantling their enemies with calculated precision that suggested extensive planning. Captain Rodriguez's fighter squadron emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, immediately executing maneuvers that demonstrated intimate knowledge of sector tactical doctrine. Instead of engaging in traditional combat, they targeted specific ship systems based on detailed analysis of raider psychology and operational requirements. "Target their communication arrays first," Rodriguez ordered over the tactical channel. "Isolated enemies make predictable decisions." Kethvar watched from the Phoenix Rising's command center as human fighters ignored obvious weapon systems to focus on seemingly less critical targets. They severed communication links between raider vessels, disabled sensor networks, and eliminated escape route options with surgical precision that left sector crews confused and increasingly desperate. The raiders responded exactly as the humans had predicted. Without coordination between their ships, individual captains began making increasingly aggressive attacks that played directly into human tactical advantages. What appeared to be human vulnerabilities were actually carefully constructed traps that drew raider forces into predetermined kill zones. Raiders are basically bullies, Commander Park explained as she watched the tactical display. Remove their advantages and they become predictably irrational. When the Phoenix Rising moved to engage the main raider vessel, Kethvar expected to witness a conventional ship-to-ship battle. Instead, he observed something approaching scientific dissection, as human weapons systematically disabled specific systems while leaving others operational for strategic purposes. "Disable their weapons, but leave life support functional," ordered Weapons Officer Banks. "We need survivors for interrogation." The precision required to selectively disable enemy systems while preserving crew survival capabilities demonstrated technological superiority that the raiders clearly hadn't anticipated. Sector vessels designed for overwhelming civilian targets found themselves outmatched by military systems they had never encountered. The rescued civilians revealed the true scope of raider brutality and explained human fury. Among the passengers were families returning from a trade mission, including children as young as 3 years old who had been terrorized by sector threats of slavery and worse. Chief Ross coordinated civilian evacuation with the same gentle efficiency Kethvar had observed in human family interactions. She spoke softly to traumatized children while ensuring their parents received medical attention and psychological support. "You're safe now," Ross told a young girl who clung to her mother. "The bad people can't hurt you anymore." But Kethvar noticed that Ross's treatment of captured raiders was coldly professional. She processed prisoners with systematic efficiency, extracting maximum intelligence through methods that balanced psychological pressure with time constraints. "Sector organizational structure indicates 23 ship crews operating under Warlord Kethmal," Ross reported after questioning the raider captain. "Staging area confirmed at Asteroid Installation Designation 7 with approximately 600 personnel." The interrogation techniques Ross employed were disturbing in their effectiveness. She didn't rely on physical torture, but instead used detailed knowledge of sector psychology to break down mental resistance through carefully applied social and emotional pressures. The rescue operation concluded with systematic documentation of everything humans had learned about sector capabilities, tactics, and organization. They cataloged weapon systems, analyzed ship designs, and evaluated crew training levels with scientific thoroughness that treated warfare as applied research. Medical Officer Martinez treated wounded raiders with clinical professionalism while simultaneously gathering biological data for future reference. He collected tissue samples, documented physical capabilities, and analyzed psychological responses with research methodology that made Kethvar deeply uncomfortable. "Understanding our enemies makes future encounters more efficient," Martinez explained as he worked. "Every piece of information saves human lives." The civilians were safely transferred to the Phoenix Rising within 4 hours of first contact, but the human response didn't end with successful rescue. Instead, Kethvar watched as they continued gathering intelligence, analyzing captured equipment, and planning follow-up operations. "Mission Phase 1 complete," Director Chen announced. "All civilians secure and receiving care." When Kethvar asked about Phase 2, Chen's smile carried implications that made the alien observer's environmental systems work harder. "Phase 2 is making sure this never happens again." The mathematics of extinction. What happened next transformed Kethvar's understanding of humanity forever. Rather than returning home after the successful civilian rescue, the human fleet continued toward coordinates extracted from captured sector navigation systems. The alien observer expected to witness a straightforward military assault on the raider base, but what unfolded was something approaching systematic extermination. Admiral Murphy assumed command of the expanded fleet from the flagship Absolute Justice, coordinating multiple vessels with the same calm efficiency she might bring to organizing a research expedition. The humans had summoned additional ships from across their territory, creating a combined force that dwarfed anything Kethvar had imagined they possessed. "Asteroid installation confirmed at grid coordinates 442 Alpha," announced the navigation officer. "Fortified base with approximately 600 sector personnel and supporting infrastructure." The tactical display revealed an installation built into a massive asteroid with docking facilities for multiple ships and weapon emplacements designed to repel conventional attacks. For most galactic species, assaulting such a fortified position would require careful planning and acceptance of significant casualties. Humans approached the problem differently. Instead of launching an immediate assault, they spent 3 days systematically studying the target while positioning their forces to eliminate every possible escape route. They analyzed traffic patterns, communication protocols, and defensive capabilities with research methodology that treated warfare as an academic exercise. Begin Phase 1, Admiral Murphy ordered as human ships moved into predetermined positions around the asteroid field. Technical Specialist Clark initiated electronic warfare operations that demonstrated capabilities Kethavar hadn't suspected humans possessed. Within minutes, all communication between the asteroid base and the outside galaxy was severed, trapping the raiders in an information vacuum. Communication blackout confirmed, Clark reported. Target is isolated and cannot request assistance. The psychological impact on the Sector defenders was immediate and visible through intercepted internal communications. Raider crews who had terrorized civilian ships found themselves cut off from their support networks, facing an enemy whose capabilities they couldn't assess or understand. Admiral Murphy then ordered the broadcast of a message on all Sector frequencies, delivered in perfect Sector dialect by Dr. Chen, who had apparently studied their language extensively. The message was simple, but loaded with implications that made Kethavar's sensory organs shift with unease. "You took our children," Chen spoke in the harsh clicking sounds of Sector's speech. "Now you learn why that was a mistake." The message continued with detailed intelligence about Sector operations throughout the sector, listing the names of raider leaders, locations of hidden bases, and evidence of specific atrocities committed against civilian populations. Humans had compiled comprehensive files on every significant raider organization within 50 light-years. "We know where you live. We know where your families live. We know everyone who has ever helped you. Choose your next actions carefully." Strike Team leader Santos led ground forces through the asteroid installation with surgical precision that demonstrated intimate knowledge of Sector base construction and defensive protocols. They moved through corridors as if following a map, neutralizing resistance while preserving data storage systems for intelligence analysis. Section 7 secured, Santos reported as her team systematically cleared compartments. Multiple computer cores intact and ready for extraction. The assault was methodical and terrifying in its completeness. Humans didn't simply defeat the raider base through superior firepower. They dismantled it piece by piece, cataloging equipment, documenting organizational structures, and gathering information about every Sector operation in 3 sectors. Dr. Rodriguez, the fleet xenobiologist, collected genetic samples from captured raiders with research thoroughness that served strategic purposes. The biological data would enable positive identification of Sector individuals across vast distances, eliminating their ability to hide among civilian populations. Genetic markers confirmed for Warlord Kethmal's bloodline, Rodriguez reported as he processed samples. Cross-referencing with intelligence databases now. Kethavar realized the humans weren't just attacking this particular raider installation. They were gathering comprehensive intelligence about the entire Sector species, treating individual raiders as data sources for understanding their civilization's military capabilities and social structures. The most chilling aspect was how systematically humans approached the psychological warfare component. They broadcast continuous updates about their progress to other Sector bases throughout the sector, ensuring that every raider organization understood the scope and efficiency of human military capabilities. "Asteroid installation neutralized," came the announcement transmitted on all raider frequencies. 600 Sector personnel processed, complete organizational records recovered, next target designated. Captain Wright led a task force that demonstrated the true scope of human strategic planning. Over the following weeks, they didn't simply hunt individual raider ships, but systematically dismantled the entire support infrastructure that enabled Sector operations. Supply convoys, communication relays, recruitment centers, and even families of raider leaders became strategic objectives. Humans approached asymmetric warfare with understanding that made Kethavar's species' military doctrine seem primitive by comparison. "Target the entire ecosystem," Wright explained during a briefing that outlined operations across multiple star systems. "Remove their ability to recruit, resupply, or coordinate, and individual raider ships become irrelevant." The operations that followed were executed with precision that suggested years of planning. Human forces appeared simultaneously at dozens of locations, coordinating attacks across vast distances with timing that required sophisticated intelligence networks and communication systems. Kethavar accompanied the task force as they visited system after system, witnessing the systematic destruction of Sector raider capabilities. What had begun as a civilian rescue mission had evolved into something approaching genocide, conducted with scientific methodology and moral certainty. "How long have you been planning this?" Kethvar asked Admiral Murphy as they observed another successful operation. Since the first time raiders attacked human civilians, Murphy replied, we believe in being prepared. The scope of human preparation became clear as operations continued. They had infiltrated sectar society, mapped their territories, and identified their weaknesses years before any direct confrontation. The rescue mission had simply provided justification for implementing plans that already existed. Most disturbing was humans' capacity for switching between extreme violence and normal civilian behavior. After spending days methodically hunting raiders, Corporal Evans returned to reading bedtime stories to rescued children with the same gentle voice she used to coordinate artillery strikes. The campaign concluded with evidence of systematic planning that spanned decades. Humans had been preparing for this moment since their first contact with galactic piracy, gathering intelligence and developing capabilities while maintaining the appearance of peaceful researchers and traders. Phase 3 complete, Admiral Murphy announced as the final sectar stronghold surrendered. Threat neutralized and intelligence objectives achieved. But Kethvar realized that humans considered this merely the beginning of their message to the galaxy about the consequences of threatening their civilians. The final phase of human operations revealed depths of strategic thinking that fundamentally altered Kethvar's understanding of what civilized species were capable of achieving. Over the following months, he accompanied human forces as they implemented what they called the Sectar Solution, a comprehensive campaign designed to eliminate raiding as a viable profession throughout the local galactic region. Fleet Admiral Parker commanded the operation from the bridge of the newly commissioned dreadnought Inevitable Consequence, a vessel that served as both practical warship and psychological weapon. The ship had been constructed using salvaged sectar technology, its hull plating forged from metal taken from destroyed raider vessels, powered by engines stripped from their former flagship. Every component tells a story, Parker explained as he showed Kethvar through the ship. When raiders see this vessel, they understand that we can turn their own strength against them. The Inevitable Consequence represented something beyond simple military construction. It was a statement of human capabilities, demonstrating their ability to study, understand, and improve upon alien technology while simultaneously using the psychological impact of their enemies' defeats against surviving opponents. Captain Wright's task force had expanded into a comprehensive intelligence network that operated across dozens of star systems. Human agents had infiltrated not just raider organizations, but the entire criminal ecosystem that supported their operations, gathering information about smuggling routes, black market suppliers, and corrupt officials. Traditional military operations target symptoms, Wright explained during a strategic briefing. We're targeting the disease itself. The scope of human intelligence gathering was revealed through operations that went far beyond anything Kethvar had imagined possible. They had identified every individual who had ever provided material support to sectar raiders, from weapon suppliers and fuel dealers to information brokers and corrupt port officials. Lieutenant Colonel Evans led operations that demonstrated human understanding of psychological warfare at levels that made conventional military doctrine obsolete. Her teams didn't simply eliminate raider leaders, but created systematic fear among their supporters through precisely calculated demonstrations of human capabilities. Fear is more efficient than violence, Evans explained as she coordinated operations across multiple systems. One properly planned demonstration prevents the need for dozens of conventional battles. The demonstrations she referred to were carefully orchestrated events designed to showcase human military capabilities while sending clear messages to potential raider recruits. Entire sectar bases would simply disappear overnight, leaving behind only perfectly organized evidence of their former occupants' crimes and detailed records of their associates' identities. The campaign reached its climax with a galaxy-wide broadcast transmitted simultaneously to every known raider organization and criminal syndicate. Admiral Parker delivered the message from the bridge of Inevitable Consequence, speaking in multiple alien languages with perfect pronunciation. This is Admiral Parker of the Human Defense Force, the message began. Over the past 8 months, we have eliminated the Sectar Raider Confederation, dismantled their support networks, and gathered comprehensive intelligence about criminal organizations throughout this region. The broadcast continued with detailed evidence of human capabilities, including tactical analyses of defeated raider forces, intelligence summaries about surviving criminal organizations, and strategic assessments that demonstrated intimate knowledge of galactic underworld operations. We have identified every individual who profits from attacks on civilian populations, Parker announced. We know your names, your locations, your associates, and your weaknesses. The message concluded with an ultimatum that chilled Kethvar's blood with its simple clarity. Humanity remembers. Humanity protects its own. Any organization that targets human civilians or the civilians of our allies will be systematically eliminated. Find new professions. The response was immediate and dramatic. Raider organizations throughout the sector began dissolving as individual crews sought legitimate employment or fled to distant regions beyond human influence. Criminal syndicates that had operated for centuries suddenly found their membership abandoning ship rather than risk human attention. In his final report to the Zolonian Confederation, Kethvar struggled to find words that adequately described what he had witnessed. "I came to study a species that appeared unremarkable among the galactic community," he wrote. "I discovered instead a form of warfare so systematic, so psychologically sophisticated, and so strategically comprehensive that it defies comparison with any military doctrine in our records." The report continued with detailed analysis of human capabilities that read more like a threat assessment than a diplomatic evaluation. Humans approach warfare as applied research, treating their enemies as problems requiring permanent solutions. They combine technological superiority with intelligence-gathering capabilities and psychological warfare methods that make conventional military resistance effectively impossible. Kethvar's final log entry captured the essence of what made humans truly terrifying. They are not the galaxy's strongest species, nor the fastest, nor the most technologically advanced. They are something far more dangerous. They are the galaxy's most patient and thorough problem solvers, and they have convinced themselves that criminal violence represents a problem requiring systematic solution. The story concluded with Kethvar requesting immediate reassignment to a different sector, as far from human space as possible. His final observation served as a warning to other galactic civilizations. "I stood beside humans and witnessed what they call righteous anger. The galaxy should pray it never sees what they might call necessary war."